What if angels still walked among us, not as distant messengers in heaven, but as unseen helpers performing miracles on earth? What if one humble man had their friendship and their power? This is the unbelievable true story of Saint John Macias, the saint who called upon angels, and they answered. Born in Ribera del Fresno, Spain, in 1585, John Macias came from humble beginnings. Orphaned as a child, he grew up herding sheep, spending long hours in the silence of the countryside. But even then, strange things began to happen. Witnesses later said that a mysterious light often surrounded him, and as he prayed, he seemed not alone. One night, as he lay beneath the stars, a radiant figure appeared beside him, an angel who told him, "John, one day you will serve in the house of Saint Dominic." He didn't understand what it meant then, but that single encounter would shape the rest of his life. Years later, he sailed to Peru, to the bustling city of Lima, where saints like Saint Martin de Porres and Saint Rose of Lima were already living. There, John joined the Dominican order, not as a priest, but as a lay brother, choosing the humblest path of service. He swept floors, tended the garden, and greeted visitors at the monastery door. But behind those simple tasks, heaven was moving. They called him the Man of Prayer. Every night, John would kneel before the Blessed Sacrament, whispering the rosary until dawn. And that's when something extraordinary began. The other friars noticed that his work, cleaning, cooking, feeding the poor, seemed impossible for one man to finish alone. Yet somehow, it was always done. One day, a fellow friar peeked through the door and froze. John wasn't alone. By his side stood 3 shining figures, moving silently, helping him sweep the floor and serve the hungry. Their faces glowed with light. Their robes shimmered like gold dust in moonlight. Angels, real, radiant, holy, serving beside a poor Dominican brother. And John? He simply smiled and said, "They come when charity is too heavy for one man to carry." Imagine that. Angels doing your chores, not for glory, but for love. Outside the monastery gates, lines of beggars stretched down the street. John never turned anyone away, even when there was no food left. He kept a small basket of bread by the door. When the poor came, he'd reach in, bless the basket, and somehow it was never empty. Witnesses said the more he gave, the more it filled. It became known as the Basket of Miracles. One friar tested him, watching secretly to see if he was hiding extra bread, but what he saw instead made him fall to his knees. John dipped his hand into an almost empty basket and drew out fresh, warm loaves, as if heaven itself had baked them. "When we give from love," John said, "God gives without measure." But John's miracles didn't stop at feeding the poor. There were times when he was seen in 2 places at once. In Lima, friars would see him praying in the chapel, silent, still, lost in adoration. At the very same hour, others swore they saw him in distant villages, comforting the sick or hearing the cries of the poor. One night, a traveler claimed he saw John walking with him along a dark road, praying the rosary. When the man reached the city and told the friars, they replied, "That's impossible. Brother John never left the monastery tonight." The traveler insisted, "Then who prayed beside me? Who blessed me before vanishing into light?" Even the skeptical friars could not explain it. Was it an illusion? Or was God sending John's spirit where love was needed most? Whatever the truth, people began to whisper, "Brother John has friends in heaven and wings of prayer." John's compassion didn't stop with the living. He prayed deeply for the souls in purgatory, believing no one should suffer forgotten. At night, fellow friars often heard him speaking softly in an empty room, as if answering voices only he could hear. When asked, he said, "They come to thank me. The poor souls visit me when they are near heaven." One friar, frightened, peeked inside and swore he saw a golden light surrounding John and faint outlines of faces. peaceful, grateful, disappearing like mist into the air. Heavenly or not, one thing was certain: John's prayers brought comfort to the living, the dying, and even the departed. In 1645, at the age of 60, Brother John grew weak. Yet even on his sickbed he smiled. He whispered to the friars, "My work is done. My angels are waiting." When he died, witnesses said a sweet fragrance filled the monastery, and a brilliant light hovered above his body. People from across Lima came to pray, claiming miracles at his tomb: the blind seeing, the crippled walking, hearts healed by faith. Centuries later, he was canonized a saint by Pope Paul VI in 1975. But his story doesn't belong to history alone. It belongs to anyone who believes that kindness and prayer still open heaven's doors. Saint John Macias's life teaches us something powerful: that miracles aren't about spectacle. They're about love in action. When we serve humbly, when we pray with faith, we invite heaven to move in our world, sometimes quietly, sometimes with angels at our side. He reminds us that holiness isn't found in wealth or fame, but in the small acts of love done for God and others. Faith, he once said, is the key that opens every locked heart, even those of angels. In an age of doubt and distraction, his story is a whisper from heaven. Miracles still happen. We just need eyes to see them. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories of faith, courage, and miracles that will strengthen your soul. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next story that could change your life. Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? A moment that felt divine? Share your story in the comments below. Let's build a community of faith and wonder together.